It's that time of year again. Time to talk about the most anticipated films of 2023. Okay, so I might do something different this time. Every other year I've done this list, I've limited it to top 10 with a lot of honorable mentions. But this isn't the top 10 most anticipated list anymore. Now it's just the most anticipated list. The list now ranks all of the honorable mentions, all 28 of them. Well, hopefully making this video won't be too hard for me. I never really had a lot to say about the movies on the other lists. I'm putting this together in 2 weeks and I'm only working part-time and have a week off for the holidays, so I can do this. I regret this already. So yes, this is everything that I thought was worth mentioning. I've done research before writing. I've been watching every trailer that Rotten Tomatoes trailers has been posting for years before I even started this channel. It has really ruined the experience of watching them before the movie. Once again, the internet continues to make things worse. And I've looked at a couple other most anticipated lists to find out about movies that I've never even heard of that belong here. And still, I'm pretty sure that my favorites of this year would mostly be things I still don't know about. Now, let's get started. At number 28 is Barbie. Yeah, this was originally just the I'm mildly interested but ashamed to admit it part of the honorable mentions, but now it must go on the list. I'm not happy about it either. It's a last-minute addition, solely because the teaser trailer made me chuckle. And I guess to a lesser extent, like a lot of other people, to the talent involved. It stars Margot Robbie as Barbie and Ryan Gosling as Ken, and directing it is Greta Gerwig. Her other two films were Oscar favorites Lady Bird and Little Woman. Now she's directing a movie about Barbie. But this is something a lot of people are excited for. You know we're living in weird times when there are film bros actually admitting that they're unironically excited to see this. And yes, I did put it on a least anticipated list a few years ago, back when I still made those, and this was in development hell, and we didn't know anything about it. I changed my mind. At number 27, another very mildly interested thing, Wonka, a prequel to Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, or Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, whatever. An origin story featuring a young Willy Wonka. Another prequel nobody asked for. Except this one stars Timothée Chalamet and is apparently from the director of the Paddington movies, so it's worth a mention. I don't really have anything else to say about it. At number 26 is Transformers Rise of the Beasts. Another Transformers movie, but this is more connected to Bumblebee than the Michael Bay movies. Sure, why not put it here? I like Bumblebee and some of the Bay movies. This could be good too, and I have even less to say about that. Now we're on to number 25, which is Fast X, as in the Fast and the Furious 10. This franchise continues with its tradition of having weird and confusing names. Yeah, these movies are fun. It would be interesting to see another one. Yeah, most of these early entries are probably gonna go by quickly. Number 24 is Elemental, the new Pixar film. Yes, I still consider Pixar to be somewhat of a draw, although they're not as good as they were years ago. Yeah, there's a reason this is so low. I still haven't seen Lightyear yet, despite putting it in the top 10 of last year's list. To be fair, nobody saw that one. This one takes place in a world populated by weird element things, and some guy made of water falls in love with some girl made of fire. Basically, it's a love story about a bunch of people who biologically can't be together. I think it has potential to be good. And now on to number 23, which is Megan, or M3gan, whatever. It's a Blumhouse horror movie produced by James Wan about some creepy killer doll robot thing that is used to serve as a companion for a traumatized child, but then it goes crazy and kills a bunch of people. The trailer has gone viral. Apparently it was a meme on TikTok, so I guess that means there's hype for this. And from what I saw, I think I might be in that camp too. It looks like fun. It's apparently from the writer of *Malignant*, so hopefully that means it'll have that same batshit vibe. The fact that it's being released at the beginning of January isn't the best sign, though. This entry might not age well after a few days, since that's probably when the reviews are coming in. I admit there might be a bit of peer pressure in the sense that while I'm interested, I'm not 100% sure I would have put it on this list if it wasn't for the internet hype. But still probably less so than for Barbie. But the point is I'm still pretty excited. Okay, last minute addition. Call this number 22.5 or whatever. While I was making this video, they put out a second trailer for Knock at the Cabin, and it convinced me that it's probably worth mentioning. The new film from director M. Night Shyamalan. A family is told by a cult of people led by Dave Bautista that if they don't sacrifice a member of their family, the world will end. A great concept for a potentially challenging thriller. But then again, Shyamalan's last film also had a great concept, but not so great execution. Well, let's hope this one's better. At number 22 is Infinity Pool, the new film from director Brandon Cronenberg, son of horror legend David Cronenberg, and director of Possessor, starring Alexander Skarsgård and Mia Goth, who I loved in X and Pearl last year. More on that later. It's about a couple who goes on vacation, and then the man in the relationship accidentally runs someone over, is sentenced to death, and is cloned so that the clone can be executed instead of him. And then a bunch of creepy things happen. I don't know what's going on at that point, but that's good because I get to find out during the actual movie. I admit there might be a bit of nepotism for Cronenberg for my selection here, but at least he's got the same style. The only real downside is that it was apparently censored to avoid an NC-17 rating. I mean, don't mess with the artist's vision, man. Especially disappointing considering when Possessor came out they made an R-rated cut but put emphasis on the unrated version. And it's not like this one is supposed to be more mainstream, it's distributed by Neon. But no matter what it's rated, this should at least be an interesting sci-fi movie that's disturbing and provocative. At number 21 is Rebel Moon, the new science fiction movie from Zack Snyder about what appears to be a rebellion against the tyrannical government in space. I know Zack Snyder is divisive. I admit I prefer a lot of the lighter DC movies to his, but I still think he has a great visual style and that would look really good in a space movie. Yeah, actually thinking about it, I'd be pretty interested in seeing Star Wars but shot like Watchmen. Hopefully this lives up to that label. At number 20, we've got the Super Mario Bros. Movie. Okay, yes, I don't see Chris Pratt as Mario. I gave him a chance, but he still doesn't sound like him. But despite that, this doesn't look too bad. The casting has been rightfully criticized for hiring celebrities over voice actors, but despite that, the cast outside of Chris Pratt is pretty good. Jack Black as Bowser is an especially inspired decision. The movie looks like it has a lot of care for the game's universe, especially since it was apparently heavily supervised by Nintendo. Video game adaptations aren't always terrible anymore. This should at least be a good animated movie, or at least good enough to put here. And now we're on to number 19. Untitled A Quiet Place Okay, so now IMDB says it has a name now. Somebody better update the Rotten Tomatoes most anticipated post. Nobody knows anything about it or what it's about except that it's directed by the guy who made Pig and is based on an idea by John Krasinski. And apparently it's now starring Joseph Quinn and Lupita Nyong'o. Otherwise, total blank here. Hey, weren't the first two Quiet Place movies great? Yeah, that's why it's here. And that's a pretty damn good reason. Also, Pig was pretty good too. At number 18 is Next Goal Wins, a sports comedy based on a true story starring Michael Fassbender playing a Dutch-American soccer coach who helps a team of underdogs get to the World Cup. Why is this here? Because of director Taika Waititi. I know it's now cool to hate on him now that Thor Love and Thunder was disappointing, but I still really like his type of movies. I think he's funny and it would be nice to see him do another low to moderate budget comedy like some of his best films. At number 17, we've got Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Okay, I've made it no secret that I've been somewhat underwhelmed by most of Marvel's Phase 4 movie-wise. While their shows are often much better, I'm not really sure if I'm really rushing to see any of these movies in the theater anymore. I'm still probably going to, but it's not really much of a priority anymore. Except for, well, we'll get back to that later. But spoiler alert, The Marvels does not appear on this list. But this one at least had a good enough trailer to make it worth a mention. It has a lot of trippy visuals, which should definitely make it at least look good. And this actually marks the beginning of Phase 5. Hopefully this is the start of a more interesting era for Marvel movies than the last one. At number 16 is Beau is Afraid, the new film from director Ari Aster, the mind behind Hereditary and Midsommar. I think it was an honorable mention last year too, except it was called Disappointment Boulevard at the time. But whatever it's called, it stars Joaquin Phoenix and has been described as a comedy that's also supposed to be depressing. I absolutely loved Hereditary and enjoyed Midsommar despite some of its more self-indulgent aspects, so I'm excited to see what Aster can do outside the horror genre. And of course you can't go wrong with Joaquin Phoenix. At number 15, we've got 65. I'm confused. From the writers of A Quiet Place, who are also directing it, and starring Adam Driver. It's a sci-fi horror film about a man from the distant future who somehow ends up stranded in the prehistoric era. That's right, people, it's Adam Driver versus dinosaurs. It's named 65 because the trailer says that it takes place 65 million years ago. So then why not just call it 65 million? And even that's an awful title. Just don't think about it, move on. Actually, maybe they should change it. I hear Disappointment Boulevard isn't taken. But despite the questionable name, this still has a concept that could be either really cool or really stupid. The trailer kinda hints towards the former, and of course so are the names involved. And besides, even if it's bad, it should probably at least be a fun bad. But I think it has potential to be genuinely good. Let me reiterate, that hook is Adam Driver versus dinosaurs. At number 14 is Mission Impossible, Dead Reckoning, Part 1. This has been an honorable mention for a few years, but this time it's probably actually going to come out this year because they have the trailer. Tom Cruise does a bunch of actual death-defying stunts in yet another action thriller. This should be fun. And now that we're at the halfway point, here's an intermission. for the frickin' honorable mentions.
This is a First Choice Super Channel feature presentation.
At number 13, we have Inside. I haven't seen this on any most anticipated lists. I guess I'll be the first, based on the trailer. It stars Willem Dafoe as an art thief who, after a heist goes wrong, is trapped alone in an abandoned studio apartment. Basically, it's about Willem Dafoe going crazy from isolation. And he's good at going crazy in movies. It looks like most of the time it's just going to be in one isolated location with Dafoe being the only one in the scene. This should be an interesting experience. At number 12, it's Cocaine Bear. Yes, this ranks higher than Ant-Man and the Wasp. This movie is about pretty much what it sounds like, based on the true story of a bear who found a lot of cocaine and ate it all. Apparently it overdosed and died just a few minutes later, but as some old meme that came back to light when the trailer was released says, in those few minutes, he was the most dangerous predator on Earth. So this one is heavily fictionalized because 5 minutes of seeing an innocent animal dying of a heart attack doesn't exactly make for fun cinema. You know what makes for fun cinema? The most dangerous predator on Earth going on a coke-fueled rampage. And that's a pretty good concept for a horror comedy. On top of how successful it'll actually be, I'll admit there is a chance that this could end up being this year's Snakes on a Plane. A mainstream movie with a ridiculous concept that the internet obsesses over but doesn't actually see. Although then again, people might be more committed to the meme than they were in 2007. But what am I talking about? Who gives a shit about the box office? This should at least be a really fun movie, even if it's just a fun, bad movie. At number 11 is Creed 3. A face from Creed's past returns and causes trouble, directed by Michael B. Jordan himself. I guess it kinda sucks that Ryan Coogler isn't directing, not to mention that Sylvester Stallone also isn't coming back, but hopefully it can retain what made the first two good. And now we're on to where the actual list would have been if I've done this like other years. Starting at number 10, we've got The Killer, the new film from David Fincher, based on a series of graphic novels about an assassin or something. Coming straight to Netflix. But who knows if I'll still have that? What if they do something stupid again? But whatever, Fincher is a pretty good director, even if I wasn't a big fan of his last one. Yeah, this is definitely getting into the top 10. At number 9, we have Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. I'm not as excited about this as a lot of people, considering it's been a while since Indiana Jones' heyday and the last movie was Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Also, wasn't The Last Crusade supposed to be The Last Crusade? And the fact that Spielberg isn't directing isn't the best sign either. Originally, this ranked lower, somewhere in the higher honorable mentions, maybe even below Cocaine Bear. But I bumped it up because, well, it's another Indiana Jones movie. I can't pass on that. Hopefully this is full of what made the original trilogy great and could bring the iconic character to a new generation. And now at number 8, we've got Oppenheimer. Leave it to Christopher Nolan to turn a historical drama about the man who invented the atomic bomb into a huge summer attraction made for IMAX. He's probably the only director who has that much pull in Hollywood. It might end up being loud and confusing like a lot of the films he's known for, but it could also be cerebral or whatever he's going for with this. Nolan is a good director who's chosen an interesting subject, a man who invented the ultimate weapon and was haunted by it for the rest of his life. Overall, this should at least be an interesting experiment, and not to mention nice to look at seeing how it's selling itself as an IMAX film. This movie allegedly recreates a nuclear explosion without CGI. Yep, dude just up and nuked his crew. But seriously, I think this could be a good one. Up next is number 7, which is John Wick Chapter 4, another sequel to the father of the modern R-rated action movie. Okay, how is this guy still alive after the third one? Well, he is, and now he's gotta take down some more bad guys. These are good action movies, and I'm eagerly awaiting seeing what happens next and watching more of the violent action this franchise is known for. Number 6 is Maxine, with 3 X's. Why? Because it's the sequel to X, and Pearl, rounding out the trilogy. Unless, of course, there's more. Every sequel to this movie gets announced like right before the one before it comes out. Can't wait until 2027 where we get the 54th sequel. They should put X in the title of that one too. How about Fast X? But anyway, not much is known about this movie except that it will focus on Mia Goth's character in X who wasn't Pearl, and it takes place in the 80s. And the song in the teaser trailer is giving me the feeling that this will also be about porn. X and Pearl were two of my favorite movies of 2022. Mia Goth's performance was excellent, especially in Pearl. Now she gets to carry yet another movie in that universe from the same director. This should be good. Sign me up. I want to see what happens to Maxine after X. At number 5 is Roosevelt. Wait, no. Killers of the Flower Moon. I don't know which one this is. It's a complicated situation. It pretty much started when I saw the Rotten Tomatoes most anticipated movies of 2023 and Roosevelt was listed. Allegedly a new Martin Scorsese film starring Leonardo DiCaprio as Theodore Roosevelt. So of course something like that I just had to put down. The article said that it was announced in 2017 and nothing's been heard about it since, so there's a really good chance that it won't come out this year, but that hasn't stopped me before. Hey, speaking of Scorsese and DiCaprio, whatever happened to Killers of the Flower Moon? The Scorsese movie with DiCaprio in it that I put on my most anticipated of 2022 list but never came out. I think that it would have probably came out before this. And then I saw some other posts about movies in 2023. I got a few conflicting accounts of which movie's actually coming out. I'm leaning towards Killers of the Flower Moon and thinking it was just a mistake on Rotten Tomatoes' part, but I could be wrong. But really, there's also a chance that none of these movies will come out this year. But whatever movie Scorsese's putting out this year, if any, that's what number 5 is. At number 4, Shazam, Fury of the Gods, the only movie in this entry. The first Shazam was top tier DC Universe. It was my favorite until the Suicide Squad came along. James Gunn revived the DC Cinematic Universe, and then got rid of it. Okay, yes, I'm sad to see this universe go despite some serious misses, and I'm definitely disappointed in them getting rid of Henry Cavill as Superman. I'm sure Gunn's planned reboot can save DC movies if done right, but it still marks the end of a franchise that took some big swings even if not all of them hit. And that will probably officially end with this movie, unless they try to work this into their reboot somehow. Oh yeah, there's also Aquaman 2. And The Flash. Seriously, why is that still a thing? Batgirl died for this? But what better franchise to go out on than Shazam? Almost ending the universe with a sequel to one of their better ones. A comedy that embraces the childlike wonder of the superhero genre while also showing the spectacle we've all come to expect from it. At number 3, we've got Evil Dead Rise. Originally supposed to go straight to HBO Max, but then they put it into theaters. Not much is known about it. It's unclear whether it'll tie in with the original trilogy in Ash vs. Evil Dead, or with the 2013 version. Either way, I am a big fan of this franchise and would be happy with that direction. If it feels like Ash vs. Evil Dead, then that would be perfect. It would be great to see more of this kind of slapsticky, gory comedy. At number 2, it's Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Yes, the only Marvel movie that I'm truly anticipating. I must be excited if I'm putting it above Cocaine Bear. Once again, I bring up James Gunn. He's returning for this. The first Guardians of the Galaxy movie is my favorite MCU movie, and the second one isn't too far behind. Hopefully they can keep up this streak with the third one. I'm guessing this might be the last time Gunn will make something for Marvel, considering he's now the head of DC movies. And let's hope he leaves on a high note. And finally, we're at number 1. Drumroll please? No? Whatever, it's Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Hey, what do you know, same number 1 as last year. Although they dropped the Part 1 from the title. They must have taken my comment on this being Spider-Man Part 2 Part 1 personally. Okay, I'm feeling lazy and nobody saw last year's video, so I'm just gonna play what I said about it then. Hopefully the movie comes out this time. A continuation of the excellent Oscar-winning Into the Spider-Verse. Possibly one of the best superhero movies I've ever seen. Definitely the best Spider-Man movie. And screw No Way Home, Across the Spider-Verse is the Spider-Man movie that really matters. Either way, it appears to have the same great visual style as the original. Even if it doesn't come close to that movie, you can't fail with the bones of such a great predecessor. Okay, now that past me's done talking, time to end the video. I guess I'll mention that 2022 was a great year for movies. I'm surprised at how many of the movies from that year have 4.5 stars or higher. You know this is a good year when RRR and Everything Everywhere All at Once come out. I'm not making a best of the year video since I haven't seen all movies this year that are worth mentioning. But I did provide a link to my constantly updating Letterboxd Top 20 list, which I just turned into an entire year ranked list. Link in the description. But the point is, 2023 has a lot to live up to. Who really knows what will be the contenders? Goodbye.